thing we're gonna look at is the bass. And so in the little intro or verse section here, we have this bass pattern here. And this I discovered is like the #1 key to making dark synth music, cyberpunk music, whatever, that gritty, edgy, dark, sinister type music. And it is this kind of bass pattern. #1 bass, like the bass is probably the most important instrument as well in this genre. It's a really great bass sound is when you kind of just have one note going across all your entire measure, your entire progression, rather than like following the root note of your chords or something like that. And then you just take certain notes out of that and you just move them up and down like an octave or so, or somewhere in between, to create kind of an interesting movement. So you want your bass that moves around a lot, but also doesn't move around a lot, if that makes sense. So something you might want to try is just like playing the pattern on your keyboard with just one note, and you go in and you move those notes around. As far as the sound goes, I'm using Synth Control's Cyberpunk preset pack for Serum. And you can actually get 20% off this and all of Synth Control's Serum preset packs when you use my code OAA20 at checkout. I'll have that linked below. But you can see here how you go about creating this sound. I did a full, more in-depth tutorial on how to create one of the other bass sounds I used in this song, which I'll have linked below as well. But you see the wavetables we're using here, PWM Maths 2, Juno settings, and so on. So you can take a look at that there, the different effects. Distortion is definitely a big one, as well as the hyperdimension and chorus to get it nice and wide. And we can see envelope 2 here is modulating the filter 1 frequency over here. So yeah, the cutoff right there looks like. So here's how it sounds. Now I also have a filter on it myself, and the filter is opening up. So without that. And then I just did some different layers here during the chorus for the bass. And again, I think these are all from Synth Control's Cyberpunk pack. So we got this, like, I'm using this as just kind of like the sub bass. I'm kind of filtering out all the highs. And here's how that sounds. So we got the ICANN has kick wavetable and the basic MG wavetable. 4 voices on the first, 3 on the second. We got envelope 2, modulating again the filter 1 frequency and the FX2 filter frequency. So that's what's causing this to open here and this open here. And it's following this envelope pattern here. Then I have this dorm room bass, basic shapes, PWM Maths 2. And this is kind of just highs and mids, and then finally with this bass killer. And I created a detailed tutorial on how to go about recreating this sound in that other video altogether now. So that's got some sidechaining on it, but I also added this OneKnob pumper here so that they all are being basically sidechained together. And that's basically it for the bass. There's filters that open and close, and that's all it is. And it's the same pattern all the way through as well, which you don't have to do that, but I did that for this song to keep it simple. So that takes me to the drums. So I'm using my custom synthwave drum kit here that I made for myself using samples from my free synthwave drum sample pack. So if you want to grab that, you can just go in the description below or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/starterpack. And that's got tons of 80s samples, presets for a whole bunch of different free synths, guides, and a whole bunch more to help you create amazing synthwave music. And that's completely for free. And I'm just using some macros in here. I'm using some compression. Some overdrive. Get some really hard hitting drums there. Then I got some parallel compression. And then lastly, added some Prism reverb here by IQ Multimedia to get kind of that almost like flangey kind of sound. Put this off. Pretty dry. And snare and the hi-hat have a lot, but just gives a nice space to the whole kit, and I think helps it stand out more. And so we got 8 bars here of just like the kick and the snare. We got some claps in there and then some toms. And then usually in a lot of different like cyberpunk, dark synth kind of songs, after those 8 bars, you have the hi-hats that come in playing like an 8th or 16th note pattern. And I think at the end I speed it up to 16th notes. Pretty simple. And then for the verse here, I think I just used the Logic Pro drummer to play this pattern with the same samples. And then I also bust my snares together. I have 2 snares that I'm using. Snare 1 and snare 2. Snare 2 is like the body, and then snare 1 is like the top of the snare. In snare 1, I added some bit crushing. Snare 2, just some EQ. Keeping it really simple here. I mean, I haven't really mixed this track yet, so that might change as I go through and mix it, but just like for the general tone. And I did apply some snare, EQ, and compression, and I have a full video walking through how I go about mixing snares and how I go about adding EQ and compression and all that, so I'll have that links below if you want a specific guide just for that. And then this bus, I'm sending it to this gated reverb here. So I'm using this Hall reverb, and it's gating it to itself there. And then I'm EQing that. So then without it and then with it in. If I went shut down the tail of the reverb more, I can pull down the release. So this song, I like it like right there. So then with the drums and the bass. The kick, then I also just add some EQ and compression. I have a full video walking through this as well. I'll have that linked below. For the tom bus, sent that to this big reverb. Here's the reverb settings. Here it's a big, large plate. Then for the chords, I'm using a pretty simple chord progression here. So this song is in the key of A minor. And so one thing I wanted to do though with these is I want to make sure I had like a pedal tone, like drone sound through here, because that can really help with like the tension and the edginess of the song. And I've got a filter opening up on that as well. And then for the sound here, I'm using this Juno wavetable here in position 5, and this Ring wavetable in position 256 all the way to the right. And then we got the envelope here, filtering off the lows with some resonance. Effects wise, we got the hyperdimension, chorus, compressor, and some delay. So with all these turned off. And we're using several different LFOs here were to modulate the fine tuning of oscillator B, the panning of oscillator B. So it creates some movement. The fine tuning of oscillator A as well. You can see the different LFOs here. Similar, different timing though. Then we're also doing the filter frequency. That's how we get this filter moving. So if we hear just oscillator B, so we can see the panning going back and forth. And again, this preset is in Synth Control's Cyberpunk pack, link in the description. And then here's what I did for the verse. Kind of spread things out a little bit more here. So I had the root note on the bottom, and then I had the third of the chord up here, I believe, at the top here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. And then I put the root note again up an octave and just had that go all the way through as this pedal tone here. Okay, creates an eerie sound. I added some like Arp Plucks. Man, it's kind of a descending pattern, create that dark feel when you have stuff go down the scale, whether it be chords or an arp or a lead, whatever, then it creates a darker sense, darker feel. So it's pretty much identical, but I changed the ending up here on each of these just slightly, so it doesn't get quite too stale and boring. I'm using the Vortex Pluck preset here from Synth Control Cyberpunk pack, and you can see the wavetable here is ICANN has kick. The wavetable here in oscillator B is scream. You can see the settings there. And here's the modulation. Again, the filter, fine tuning, and panning. That's kind of a common technique to use. So that's a good technique to use if you want more of an analog feel, is to modulate that fine tuning on your different wavetables. And then I did layer this with a patch called Synth Cybersaw from, I think it's like the Cyberpunk pack in here. Yeah, for Baby Audio's BA1s. And then we got a different pattern here in the chorus. Again, that descending pattern. Now another good thing to have, like, to create that dark, eerie sound is to have two notes right next to each other, like just a half step down, just like one semitone away. And having those notes like right butting up against each other kind of creates that eerie, dark sound. And that takes us to leads. And so I'm using this sound here for my lead. Got the acid wavetable mixed with the basic MG wavetable. Matrix wise. And the effects, got some distortion, hyper, dimension, phaser course, reverb, equalizer. So pattern here, again, I'm kind of following the same pattern I did with the bass. We get the one root note here, and the key is A minor, so I'm using A here. And then the top layer is just bouncing back and forth between that. And it's kind of moving up and down like a wave, and then it builds up to the end as the tension is building to kind of create that eerie. Then during the chorus, I added in some other layers here. This wildcard lead here, you can see the settings there. The matrix, quite a lot of automation going on with this one. And the effects. And this is a more dragged out, drawn out lead pattern. And then we add one more layer, this dark cloud layer. You can see the wavetable, settings, envelopes, the effects we got going on. And the matrix, nothing. Well, okay, a little bit down there. So then all together. And I also added some super VHS on here for some heat, some drift and wash. So reverb, like pitch, drift. We got Prism reverb as well to add that really shimmery, big, washy reverb on top. Got good, so good. So looking at the mids, lows, mids, and highs kind of a thing going on here, I think. Okay, these are the highs. Lows, mids. And I think this is actually a harmony part. Maybe, maybe not. Or maybe it's just up an octave. But then here, in the second half of the lead melody here, I do have this Poseidon's trident playing a couple harmony parts, and then it speeds up too, so it goes from that more drawn out legato type lead sound to this more staccato pattern. Almost like a little like creepy horror, like ancient Egypt kind of doo-doo-doo-doo sound here. And then into the verse here, we have this melody pattern. And then I use the good old pitch wheel on my MIDI keyboard to do that kind of wobbly sound. And I got a bunch of that over here as well. And I think I'm also doing some using the mod wheel as well, so you can see the automation in there. Just kind of adding in some chaos and stuff in there, so then all together. Samples and sound effects now for this song, and for that I'm going to be using LANDR, who is the sponsor of this video. They have plugins, AI mastering, music distribution, and also a really amazing sample library. And so let's go through some of these and see if we can find something that fits. So I'm searching on effects and dark synthwave. Nice deep impact, but I'm not sure that will fit. So sweep, soft. Nice. Some video game effects. Ooh. Great for like submarine. So I'm gonna heart this pack. So anyway, you get the idea. So many amazing sounds in here, and you can actually get 20% off your first year with LANDR or LANDR samples or any of LANDR's products when you use my link. Just go to orpheusAudioacademy.com/LANDR. Also have that link in the description below. So of course we got your normal risers and downers and impacts and stuff. Got some breathing in there. Scared breathing. Creepy laughter. And so let's see, I think this is what the laughter normally sounded like by itself. I do have some sound shifter, so I'm pitching it up at the end there. Of course, we got that creepy Prism reverb again on here and delay at the end, so it echoes out. That's it going up. And then this, I have it copied, and then this is pitched down like 7 semitones, I think. Then together it sounds really creepy. And here's our monster. And then this is like someone yelling run. I'm on a battle. I have that in there a couple times. Here we got like a yell and then like a harbor sound. We got typewriter. Just creepy knocks. The bass boosted a ton. And some splashes. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Last time I tried making a dark synth song, everyone told me it wasn't dark enough and it was too happy. So hopefully this one is dark enough. Let me know your thoughts, and if any questions at all, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll be sure to follow up on those. So that's dark synth. Now if you want to learn how to create a synthwave song start to finish, then check out my video on the screen right now.